Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is our latest webinar, APIs and Custom Julia Development on JuliaHub. I'm Misha St. Amand. I'm the head of marketing for JuliaHub, and I'm joined today by our presenter, Morten Pibelet. He's a software engineer here at JuliaHub, and he's part of the JuliaHub platform team. As we move along, if you have any questions, please put those in the Q&A, and we will take a few breaks to answer whatever's come in. And then, of course, just one question we often get, we will be sharing a recording of the webinar and any supporting materials with everyone who's registered to attend. That'll come to you via email in the next few days. I will turn things over to Morten, and in a minute, I will be sharing the GitHub repo with you that he'll be talking through. Morten?
All right, thank you. Good morning, good day. I'm excited to present the JuliaHub. So this webinar will be focused around the JuliaHub JuliaHub.jl package, and is basically going to be all about sort of programmatically interacting with the JuliaHub platform, either from scripts or from the command line or from like applications. If you're like developing an application and you want to talk to a JuliaHub, talk to JuliaHub.com sort of website or the platform. So this is the broad plan that I have for the webinar. So I'll start off by just kind of going over the compute features of JuliaHub. So because what you can do with JuliaHub.jl with that package, Julia package, is centered around the various compute features that the platform offers, and then I want to basically walk you through go through a bunch of code samples and just show you how to use JuliaHub.jl, and then also like do at the end, if we sort of have some time there, I'll try to walk you through a couple of slightly more advanced examples about using JuliaHub.jl from within actual batch jobs, and then like having more complex sort of job kind of system or like a workflow within a job. And the other thing we'll do is also look at sort of application development, how we can have an application in JuliaHub, which then also goes back and talks to the JuliaHub instance using JuliaHub.jl. So as Misha mentioned, there is the link to the GitHub repo. So let me just pull it up real quick. Should be public to everyone, so anyone can follow along with all the code samples that I'll be going through. Basically, what you will find here is under the webinar directories, there will be all these Julia scripts that I'll basically be walking through one by one. So what you can do is so if you're already familiar with how to use Julia and have that available on your computer, you can download or clone the repository and basically just start playing with the Julia scripts in there. You would have to instantiate the main environment here to get all the packages, but they're all publicly available packages, so it should be very easy to install. But also you can just come back to this repository will stay up, and as Misha said, you'll get that in the email as well. So you can always come back to this. I've tried to add some like notes into all of the files as well about like what's going on and how to use them, and so you should be able to like later on just come back to this repository and follow along, and then walk through all the things that I'll be talking about. Another things I'll just want to mention as resources that you can also browse as we're going along in the webinar is the JuliaHub help site. So if you go to help.juliahub.com, you'll have the main documentation for the whole platform, and so there's a bunch of information about the platform and its features here. So you can browse that if you already haven't. And in particular, if you go to the Julia app and the Julia API, we'll actually get the documentation for the JuliaHub.jl Julia package, which otherwise it's lives in GitHub as most Julia packages do. But so yeah, if at any point you have like want some more details about what options a particular function has that I'm showing, or so on and so forth, it has the reference manuals and all of those things, so you can just follow those. You can sort of read this on the side if you're interested. Okay, so yeah, I think that was all the sort of introductory sort of remarks that I wanted to make. Yeah, if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them sort of more or less continuously. So I think Michelle will sort of pass them through to me, and I will be I'll just try to get to them sort of continuously, and then happy to have a sort of a longer discussion at the end as well. But yeah, I generally like these things to be more interactive. So if there are questions, I'm more than happy to engage with them.
Definitely. And just to interrupt you, I will stop Morten at natural pauses. So please type in your questions in that Q&A function, and I'll share them with him as he goes along.
Right. All right. So before I actually get started with all the code, I actually wanted to then just give a quick walkthrough of what JuliaHub.com is about. So actually, I'm going to log out. So if you haven't logged in before, this is the landing page you'll end up in, and you can then click on that button on the top right and use some method to log into the Julia platform. And once you are logged in, this does sometimes happen. Yep, you should trying again. We'll fix that. So yeah, so you'll be greeted by the screen, and the main, I would say, like the main feature when in particular in terms of like when you're sort of a data scientist or computational scientist and you want to do some computational work. So but what the JuliaHub platform really offers you is the ability to, like, we offer the infrastructure to like we'll take care of like spinning up some virtual machines for you, and your what you can do is basically just like I want to run some sort of a compute thing, and you'll be able to do that on the platform, and we'll take care of all the infrastructure sort of for you. So if you want like a lot of machines for a large distributed batch job, for example, you can do that, or if you want just to run a small script, you can also do that. One aspect of that, which you're probably you can like play around with, but it's not really the focus of this webinar, is all the applications that we have. So if you want to run Pluto notebooks, and you can also run like the IDE. So yeah, you can launch those and play around with those. But like as a sort of focus from the JuliaHub.jl perspective really is, I would say, about more sort of, let's say, scientific computation and kind of batch jobs. So that will be the second main feature of the platform, where you can actually just put a job list and you can start up batch jobs. And this is you exactly see what we do is like you basically have just this Julia script that you can send to the platform, and you can attach an optional Julia environment with packages and with specific versions of packages. For example, if you attach the manifest file, and then you can just tell it like what kind of a compute configuration you want, like how many CPUs, how much memory. You can run distributed jobs if you want. You can run GPU jobs, and then you can just launch this, and it will start. I can do that, and it will start a job, and that will just run your script. So in this case, the script doesn't actually do anything that I just launched, but it would work. Just a side note, if you have not actually used the platform before, you do get, I believe it's 20 hours of free compute. So you should be able to follow along with all these, actually go in and launch these jobs, and at least with some limitations. I don't think you can start GPU jobs on the free tier, for example, but you should be able to, all the examples that I'll be showing, you should actually be able to run on the free tier. as well. So should be easy to try that without having to worry about anything. Okay. So being able to run compute is one aspect, and then on top of that, the other bigger feature would be datasets. So because if you're running compute, there's a good chance that, well, maybe it's just computational, but there's probably some data involved in it as well. And so datasets allows you to basically just upload any sort of data. And you basically just give it a name, and you can upload that, and then you can use that in JuliaHub.jobs. You can download it later on. You can update it, upload new versions, add some metadata, so on and so forth. So if you're using this feature from the GUI, then you can upload like single files in the GUI as datasets. On top of that. So these things. So these are the two things, like the jobs and the datasets, is what JuliaHub.jl is focused on. Additionally, like we also support projects, so you can like sort of organize your work a little bit using the projects feature. And then there's also packages and the AI feature, and so on, which are for not relevant for compute directly, but just the other features that can be useful. Right. So I've mostly worked through the web UI. So one thing you can do actually is, interacting with the platform through the web interface is one thing you can do. The other way to interact with it is actually from the VS Code extension. So if you launch one of the IDEs, like I did just now, it comes with this JuliaHub extension pre-installed. And this actually allows you to do all the same operations that I just showed you, also in a sort of GUI way. So you can submit scripts as jobs. You can interact with all the datasets that are available on the platform, or you can like add new ones. And then you can also see like running jobs, like this, the one that you saw we just launched a few minutes ago. Again, I think if I click here, it should open up the logs. So this offers a different sort of GUI user interface to JuliaHub. This extension actually is also available on the VS Code marketplace, so you can just install it on your local computer as well. So I don't have it installed on this VS Code, but here it should show up. Yeah, so you should be able to just install it, and then if you do that, you should get the same sidebar icon, and you should get all these features, and you'll be able to log into JuliaHub.com or if you're one of our enterprise customers and you have your own JuliaHub instance, you can also just point it to that instance and just interact with that. All right, so yeah, so this is the GUIs that we can use. So JuliaHub.jl now is all about like, well, what if the GUI is sort of not enough? You can basically imagine like workflows where let's say you just have like a lot of data sets that you want to operate on. Let's say you want to like you've created like 50 temporary data sets on the datasets list, and yes, you could theoretically like click through the UI one by one and like delete them. Let's say you want to get rid of all these old temporary data sets, but that's probably not going to be very pleasant. And so instead, what you can do with JuliaHub.jl in code, you probably want to write a script. That's what the JuliaHub.jl package is all about. So I don't know if we have any questions so far. But if not, then I would start diving into the demos of the JuliaHub.jl package now, just to show how we can use JuliaHub.jl to interact with the platform. Right. So now I'll be just going through the scripts here in the webinar directory, as you'll see here as well. So if you have, so let me just start sort of like a new session here. But I already have JuliaHub.jl of course installed, but it is just a Julia package, right? So you can just using the package manager, you press the bracket button, and you can just add it as add JuliaHub. In my case, it shouldn't really do anything because it's actually already installed, but yeah, it will add it to your current environment, and then you can load it and start using it. Let's load it right now. So the first thing I want to talk about is like in order to talk to the JuliaHub platform, you need to authenticate with the platform, right? So you need to have sort of an authentication token. And JuliaHub like I personally have found that sometimes when I use other some cloud providers, it's actually really annoying to get figuring out how to even like authenticate. Like maybe using the API that they have is very easy, but actually like getting the authentication token working properly can be a pain. So with JuliaHub.jl and with the Julia platform, we try to make it as easy as possible. So literally, you should be able to just run this one line of code, and it should authenticate with the platform. As with Julia code, it will take a second to sort of warm up. So in this case, I was authenticated before. So what I will do is actually hack a little bit, remove the authentication token, and run this again. So if you have not authenticated with JuliaHub or with that particular JuliaHub instance before, this is actually what you should see. So in your REPL, you actually get this sort of interactive authentication prompt popping up. It'll tell you to go and log in, and then it should, if you haven't logged in, it will prompt for the login form. If you are logged in, it will just say, hey, authenticate now. You click yes, and you can close that, and we are now authenticated with the JuliaHub instance. And we can so inspect the authentication object if you want. Just purely from a sort of technically how the authentication actually works is, if you're familiar with the way that Julia files are organized on your computer, there is the depot, which is usually in the .julia directory in your home directory. And there will actually, so once you start using like an authenticated connection to JuliaHub, it will create a service directory. And there's going to be, for each instance, there's going to be this authentication.toml file. And within this file, you have the token. That is what JuliaHub.jl actually goes in and reads that file. This is useful. So in case you do have any sort of issues with authentication or anything weird happening, one option is to just wipe the token and like let JuliaHub.jl so sort of redo the authentication for you. So you can just delete this directory here and rerun the authenticate function, and it should prompt you for that interactive authentication again. And you'll get a new fresh token, and everything should hopefully be fine. If there are issues. Although to be fair, like I use JuliaHub.jl basically on a daily basis to do different things on the platform, and I usually don't run into authentication problems. So at least, yeah. So that's. But if you maybe have like a really old, you haven't used in a while, and it's not like an old outdated token, it should automatically refresh it. But if it doesn't, you have this fallback as well that you can always use. Yeah, so what you saw before, if I can call it again, the same function. So now that since I already have the token in here, if I call it again, it will actually pick that from your local disk. So it doesn't prompt again for the interactive authentication unless the token has expired or somehow disappeared from your disk. So that's good to know. All right. Oh yeah, there was one more thing that I wanted to mention about just the authentication tokens as well. Just we have all bases covered. So if you do go to JuliaHub.com, and so you can use the authentication, like the interactive authentication. It should work for like 90% of the time. But if for whatever reason you can't use that or something along those lines, you can always download the same authentication token from the Julia website as well. So if you just go there, go to your preferences page, and there will be this section here, and you can download the token file. And if you then put it into the .julia server's instance name directory, then it should also work, and JuliaHub.jl should find it automatically. All right. So sorry about that. Oh yeah, so the last thing I want to mention about authentication is, so you might want to ask is sort of, why do I need to specify, like, why do I need to tell it at JuliaHub.com? So that's basically because, yeah, there's actually more than one JuliaHub instance out there. So if you are an enterprise user, you would specify your own, your own enterprise JuliaHub instance here. One thing that you should also be aware of that. So right now, if I call the authenticate function without, actually, I need to start that in a clean session. So let me restart Julia here real quick. No, I don't think I have. Let me just check just to make sure I don't have this environment variable set somehow. No, I do not. So if I just authenticate without specifying the instance or the instance that I'm talking to, then it will it will give me an error, but it will pick up the package server variable. So that is a common way to sort of specify the JuliaHub instance. And that, again, if you're using an enterprise instance, there is a good chance that you might have some private registry there, and you will have like your own internal private packages. And you're already using the package manager to install those private packages from this package server, and you're already setting your package server to point to your enterprise instance. So if you do set that environment variable either within Julia or more likely, I guess, in your like sort of bash aliases or some sort of global environment, then you'll be able to it'll pick that up automatically from there, and will authenticate against that server. So in this case, I'm just pointing it to JuliaHub.com, and we should be, we are getting, now we don't have to pass like an explicit argument to this. And this is also how things work if you are in a JuliaHub environment. So if you're in the IDE, for example, on JuliaHub.com. So let me just go back to the IDE that I've launched before. But so in the sort of JuliaHub environments, we also set that environment variable for you, and that means JuliaHub.jl and other tools can automatically detect that, hey, I should be talking to that particular JuliaHub instance. So you'll see that later in the jobs that I actually also call the authenticate function, but I do not have to specify the instance that this job happens to be running on JuliaHub.com or some other instance. You don't have to actually specify that. No, that's something that you can see that we set the variable, and that means JuliaHub.jl will automatically talk to the correct instance. You don't have to configure it. All right, so that's all that I have on authentication, I believe. So I guess we don't see any questions so far. And all right, then I will move on to datasets. So let's get to the actual sort of meat here and like talk about how to actually use JuliaHub.jl, and it's pretty easy. So the two feature sets that I want to sort of talk about are dataset, like how to manage datasets using JuliaHub.jl, and then later on how to work with jobs. So once you are authenticated, you can start using the platform. And for example, so yeah, if you call that just the datasets function from the Julia package, it'll give you a list of all the datasets. And if I go into the UI, you'll see that it matches the it matches what you saw in the UI before. I can also, for example, just get all the shared datasets. So all the datasets that in some way through projects or by that they are set to public. I'll get a list of all of those. There are like 270 of those. And now, so as I said, like the point of JuliaHub.jl largely is because like at some point you want to do maybe some sort of bulk operations or some sort of automated operations. So for example, the sort of example where you want to delete certain data sets with that say let's say it match some sort of a naming scheme because they're like temporary data sets and you have given them a certain name. You could do a thing where you are looping over all of those data sets and then like calling JuliaHub.delete data set on those data sets. So yeah, this allows us to do bulk operations on the data sort of you have in or the different objects, let's say the jobs and the data sets that you have in the on the Julia platform. Other things you can do, you can of course use JuliaHub.jl to upload data. So I happen to have this sort of a data set stored in this directory here. So what I will try to do here is upload it. So there is a function to do that. I'm uploading. I'm giving it a name called UN population data. So this particular CSV file that I have here comes from the I just found it on the United Nations website. It contains some sort of various population statistics about the world. And if I just if I call that function and point it via the second argument to the local file, it has now you were able to see that I was uploading it here, and now it has created. So if we now actually go to JuliaHub.com. And we look at what my datasets look like, you see that there is now this new dataset here. And we can also, if we want, we can open it up. And let's see. And yeah, you can see it's all here. And you can browse the data. I have the same CSV data. Okay, so this is something that will be useful if you are, let's say, wanna upload a bunch of files from your local computer to JuliaHub.com to then use it further in JuliaHub jobs, for example, or something like those lines. So just store the data there. The other use case here, and I'll sort of show you how to do it, but you can actually use that from within a JuliaHub job. Use JuliaHub.jl to say like you have like a batch job that you're running on JuliaHub.com, and you are generating a bunch of data, and you need to store the data somewhere that you have just generated. You can use JuliaHub.jl then to like, upload it as a data set to the platform. So one thing, so if I try to upload it again, it will actually give me an error because the data set already exists, but the JuliaHub.jl package has, and again, I suggest that you go to the documentation of the package to see how to use all these options. But basically, if I pass update true in this case, it will you are able to upload new versions of the same data set as well. If I refresh it now, you should see that there are now indeed two versions. In this case, they're identical, but it will get there. Yeah, you can also upload. So that was just one file. That was one CSV file. What I've done here is split the data set up into a bunch of files, actually. So I have this script here that did that for me. And I can just point that whole upload data set to that directory. It will upload that whole directory as what we call a block tree type data set. But it's basically just like a file system tree instead of just a single file. And so if we now try to browse this one, it should show up. Yeah, you'll see that it shows up with all the individual files. And we can click through those and we get the CSV files as well. All right. Well, if you have the data on JuliaHub.com, you may want to, in some circumstances, get it back down to your computer or to a job. So there is also download data. There's a function which allows you to download it, and yeah, so if we open it up, so this is got downloaded into the temporary directory, but you can see it's the same data that we uploaded to JuliaHub. So you can just download it. And I'll be using that in the jobs actually. That I'll demonstrate a little bit later. One thing you can also do is like when other people and then share a data set with you, you can specify their username and then like download their data set as well. So in this case, yeah, I'm downloading the one of the data sets from the JuliaSim tutorial set of data sets. And yeah, so I don't actually know what the context of that particular data set is, but I think it's I believe it's used in one of the JuliaSim tutorials, as the name would imply. There are a few other operations. So if you want to delete the data sets, you can also do that programmatically as well. So basically everything you can do in the platform, in the GUI, you can do with JuliaHub.jl. You can see the datasets have indeed disappeared. Right. Final note, you may or may not be familiar with datasets.jl, which is a slightly different way of accessing datasets, which on JuliaHub. So it doesn't have anything to do with JuliaHub.jl, but I just did want to just mention that as well. So when it comes to reading datasets, that actually offers a different kind of an interface, that Julia interface that you can also use. So you don't have to necessarily use download datasets. You can also use the datasets.jl. And if you want to upload datasets or like update their metadata or something like those lines, then you should be using JuliaHub.jl. Right. So I think this is all I had on datasets. I guess we. Right. So if there are any questions, happy to answer any questions. But otherwise, I'll probably just move on to discussing how you can work with jobs. So like datasets with jobs. So as I mentioned before, so yeah, you can basically submit like JuliaHub script. Oh, sorry, not a Julia script as a job that will spin up like a machine for you, and it will run that script for you and do whatever it needs to do, and then you can run batch compute basically on JuliaHub. So to do that with JuliaHub.jl is actually really, really easy. This is literally all you need to do to spin up a Julia job. And what it will do is, actually, I'll run it. And yeah, it will simply submit this script. So this script is extremely trivial. It'll just show you the environment, the package environment that the job was running in. But that's all. Now, if we go to JuliaHub.com, you actually have a new job that is currently running. It will take a little while to spin up the actual machine. It takes a little while to provision all those resources. So I'm not gonna really wait for it to complete right away, but we can come back to it a little bit later. But yeah, so one thing so the reason I'm submitting like this kind of a package status job is because what that will demonstrate to you is this macro, this string macro here, actually, it'll pick up the current environment. So I'm in this JuliaHub webinar app, like in this environment here with those project manifest YAML files, which does have a bunch of packages already available, and it will automatically attach that environment to your job. So that means your job will also have access to all these packages. So that job could be using already like CSV and the JuliaHub.jl package, for example. And you'll see that a little bit later. I mean, so not only can you submit jobs, you can also introspect jobs with JuliaHub.jl. So actually you saw that it already like returned an object that shows the status of the job. So we can look at the metadata. So this is not actually updated live. So you have to explicitly update this object. So you can basically call the JuliaHub.jl function on a job object, and then it'll update it. It's still waiting to start up. But you can also get some of the information that is on the job details page, like the output files and the inputs and the outputs, if any of those are present. you can access them with the various APIs and fields of the job object. So for example, in this example, in this loop here, what I'm doing is going like looping over all the job files that we have. Oh, actually, sorry. I'm downloading actually all the job files that there are. So the job has a bunch of input files. And yeah, if we open those up, what we see is like, yeah, it's the script, it's the project toml file, and the manifest toml file that got submitted with the job. So you can access them. And if your job produces any outputs and those are there at when the job is finished, then those will also show up here in this list, for example. Right. Yeah, should be able to. So let me, yeah, should be able to pick it. Also, for example, yeah, look at the job logs. I think this one will be empty because the job actually hasn't started, so it doesn't have any logs yet. So yeah, this is empty. What I can do is pick another job from one of the old jobs that has already finished. So let's just take this one. Job. And actually just run this function here. Right. And you can see that it contains a bunch of the log messages that you will also see in the UI if you were to run this in the UI. You can also do, obviously, like there are various options when you submit a job that you can specify for a JuliaHub job. So for example, if you want to run it with the JuliaSim image rather than the standard image, you can. So JuliaHub allows you to, yeah, for example, so images that are available, the different batch images, and the different machine configurations, there are functions you can use to access all that information. And you know, when you call submit job, you can specify various options. So instead of running it with like the standard job, I can submit this script with JuliaSim batch image, and for example, on a much bigger machine, which has like 16 CPUs. So if I do that, it should submit a new job. And so what was it called? CVP. Yeah, here we go. We'll actually open up the logs for the other job as well. Yeah, and so you see this is the second job that I submitted. You see that it runs with JuliaSim batch. It runs with 32 CPUs. I specified 16, so that's something to be aware of, that you by default you are specifying the minimum number of CPUs that you're requesting. So in this case, we don't actually have if you look at the list of machines that are available, you see that there are no 16 CPU machines available. So it will actually pick a 32 CPU. But you will try to pick the smallest machine that has enough CPUs and or memory or GPUs or whatever you specify. So that's something to be aware. All right. Yeah. Okay. So this is the job box for the other job that I submitted earlier, and you can see that when it finished, and it ran the package.status, and it had all the packages available to it. So I could have done in the script like using JuliaHub or using Dash or whatever, and start using those packages within the job. All right. So that's sort of a brief tutorial. Just when you want to run JuliaHub kind of interactively, JuliaHub.jl, I mean, and interact with JuliaHub.jl in the code. And you can, I hope you can imagine now, like you can use all these APIs. And yeah, I would again encourage you to just, you know, go through the documentation and Julia API. So yeah, just look through the documentation and see like what other various options and functions we have available to interact with the platform, how to configure jobs, what you can do with datasets and so on, so forth. But you can do like, yeah, using this like sort of bulk operations or yeah, anything like that. All right. So now that we've covered the basics, basically, so I just want to go through two slightly more advanced examples of sort of how you could use JuliaHub.jl on to do basically slightly more advanced and stuff. The example that I have here. So what I will do next is submit a job that will actually use JuliaHub.jl underneath. So I'm going to submit the job because it will again take a little while to start up and run. And then, but as it runs, I'm going to walk you through the script and explain what it actually does. It's interesting. One thing to note here, so previously I was just using this script macro, right? Here I'm using an app bundle or application bundle. So the difference there is, so sometimes you want to submit something that's really simple, like a simple script that is like literally just like a few lines of Julia code. So then using the script interface where you construct a job like this is probably really, really, handy. But if you are doing like more realistic sort of and more sophisticated analysis of some data or something like those lines, you probably want to submit that an application bundle. An application bundle basically is you point it to a directory. So in this case, I'm pointing it actually to the whole repository, and it will pick up the Julia environment from there. So it will pick up this Julia environment here, and basically pass like all the files along as well. You can ignore some of them as well. There is like this sort of Julia bundle ignore file where I'm ignoring a bunch of those because I don't want them to be in the bundle. So that feature also exists. But generally just you bundle up a bunch of files. So that's useful if you have, I don't know, configuration files or data files, like small data files that you want to attach with the bundle. It will also pick up like packages that you have in the environment, including like sort of dev dependencies that you have in the environment. So it'll go through and like bundle it all up, and that it should be possible to run all that on that should all run then on JuliaHub. So because otherwise you would have to like probably like pull in all those files from a dataset or something, which is it's handy that it can just pass along with the job. So you can use app bundles here. So this but the second argument for the app bundle is the script that actually starts running when on JuliaHub. And so what this script does, and I can actually let it run locally. So the script actually doesn't need really remote compute. It's actually not a like computationally heavy script, but you could imagine this being some sort of a computational job that takes 10 hours to run, and so it would be convenient to offload that to JuliaHub or to this sort of cloud batch system instead of running things locally. Or maybe you need some like a huge distributed cluster to run things. So it will actually go and download the dataset. So that's the first part where I need JuliaHub.jl. I'm gonna download the. Okay. If you remember, I deleted my dataset, so it was complaining that the dataset is missing. That's actually a problem because the job might also be failing. But let me just re-upload all the data. Just need this one dataset. See what the job is doing. Job is running, so it might be failing. So just to be on the safe side, what I'll do is, so now I have the data. So now download the data. That should work. Yep. So it's downloading that CSV file and then parsing that using the csv.jl package, and I should end up with a nice data frame that shows us all this data. What we'll do is resubmit the bundle as well, just in case the first job is failing because the dataset wasn't there when it was supposed to be. Then it does a bunch of just standard sort of data analysis things here. And I'm just like adding columns and recasting the data a little bit. So the thing with the data that I have in that file is it contains basically it contains for each country, and for each year, and it contains a bunch of for each row is a different kind of data. So yeah, population number, but also population density numbers, for example, and ratio between males and females and so on. So what I do here is I'm recasting it into a new data frame where I have for each country and for each year, I have the population number, and I've also converted it nicely to a float value, and the population density number. And my end goal here actually is to make make a figure, like a nice scatter plot of this two data. That's where I'm going with this. But right now, so I've taken the initial big data set and I've sort of filtered out a bunch of data that I'm not interested in, and recast that data there. So what I'm going to do with the data is upload it as a new data set here. And so this is again where JuliaHub.jl comes in. I can use it to upload a new data set. So I'm taking that reduced data frame, and it should show up nicely as a new data set. That should be, oh yeah, so you see there are actually two different ones. So one is that I uploaded locally from my machine, and the other one actually came from the job that I submitted from before. So the job in the meanwhile has also finished. And yeah, you can see that both of these data sets that I uploaded, they contain the new version of the data, let's say. So yeah, and this is basically the just demonstrates to you how you can use the JuliaHub.jl functions from within a script to do operations against a JuliaHub instance. The other thing I want to do, demonstrate here is well, JuliaHub.jl allows you to start jobs, so you can start jobs from your jobs. And this can be useful for some some types of workflows, like something I was thinking of what would be the good sort of real world application. But you can imagine let's say you have a very like a CPU, like a long CPU compute kind of job that runs, let's say 20 hours. And let's say once or twice during the time you need to use a GPU node. Well, GPUs are more expensive, so you don't want to run the GPU node for the whole 20 hours just to do CPU calculations. But what you can do here is run the CPU calculation and then pause that, for example, submit the separate job that runs a GPU calculation for an hour, and then continues on the CPU. So something like that might be an application for submitting additional sort of jobs from an existing job. In this case, the application that I'm sort of going to for is that the follow-up job here that I'm submitting as another application bundle, it will actually try to do some plotting. So, but if we look at the plot script real quick, it's nothing sophisticated. It again downloads the dataset using JuliaHub.jl, communicates the name of the dataset through an environment variable, does some data wrangling a little bit, plots the creates the plots. So let me actually, and then those plots should end up in so those plots get written into a local temporary directory on the job and then uploaded as an output file, and we'll be able to download those plots from the job page later. But yeah, so the key here is that once this job is sort of at its end, it will actually start up a second job. This job finishes, but the second job will then still run. All right. So yeah, you can see here as well that one of the scripts that I submitted has started up this follow-up job. It'll probably take a minute to run, so I can't show the output yet. Right, but yeah. So let me just, actually, I wanted to do one thing. So this is a side note. I will tell you in a moment what I'm doing here. Yeah. Yeah, so that. Right. Yeah. But yeah, okay. So I hope that this is sort of the gives you an idea of how you can build more sort of advanced workflows within your jobs using JuliaHub.jl that say, interact with data sets, start up other jobs and so on and so forth. As we're waiting for the job to finish, what I can do is just also show locally what the job should be doing. Okay, dataset name parameter is not set. That's fair. So let me just should be set to one of the reduced datasets that's created. Putting it here. Now I think this will work. Yep. Cool. Actually, apparently I have a bug in the script. It needs to be downloading that dataset. Okay. That's a little unfortunate. That means the follow-up jobs are not working properly. But I will fix that. Update the webinar materials here. Okay, and I also messed up a little bit with my local Julia environment right now. So the plus.jl package doesn't want to load. All right. So what I will do here is, since I fixed the script, I can submit yet another app bundle, and hopefully it will finish perhaps before the end of the webinar. All right. So this was a demo of like using JuliaHub.jl in jobs. The last thing I want to talk about, that was the thing that I was launching like an application because it takes a small little while to start up. But basically, so let's actually see if that application. So this repository that I have. It doubles actually as a Julia package. So if you look at the project.toml file, it actually looks like a Julia package. It's not registered or anything, but what you can do, but it does have a small package script here, and another sort of entry point script under the bin in the bin main. These ones. You can. This means this is sort of what I would call like an application package, and so you can add this as an application to JuliaHub. So what you would do is just take this add application, put the Git URL here, and you can do that. You should be able to do that in your JuliaHub account as well, and you can add it. So in my case, it fails because I already have it added before, but otherwise it will successfully add it for you. And then what you can do here is, there will be a launch button, which will open up the standard sort of JuliaHub job submission model for you, and you can pick that. So if you do want to launch this one, you should be, you need to make sure that you're launching from the master or the main branch, and you specify a port number because this is now an application that we can connect to. And what this application will do, and let's see if we are able to connect to it. It does take a little bit of time to like sort of warm up again. So, okay, it's still like basically, I can see from the logs, it's still like installing packages. So we can't connect to it yet. So what I will do is show you the code, what this application actually does. This is a dash.jl application. There was a webinar a few weeks ago by Steve Kelly on on how to build dash.jl applications and how to sort of work with them in JuliaHub. So if you want to know more about like building dashboards and using dash.jl, so I suggest you go look up that webinar. But in a nutshell, what it does is like, well, when Julia starts one of these applications, it runs the bin main script. And this just basically ends up calling this run function. And this run function does, the sort of standard Dash things. So I'm not going to go into like how Dash works, but yeah, it'll just try to sets up a Dash application and with a bunch of the HTML and all that stuff. The key here that I want to sort of demonstrate is you can integrate these kind of applications with JuliaHub.jl to then talk to the platform again. So what we are doing here is, in the main script, we are authenticating to your currently running JuliaHub instance. And so here, what I'm doing is it's going to fetch a list of datasets using JuliaHub.jl, and it will actually show them in a drop-down menu. And we'll hopefully see that in a second. And then every time you pick a new dataset in the drop-down menu, there is this callback function down here that will, again, call out to JuliaHub, get the information about that data set, and then it will display that. And it will actually put a nice pie chart with the version sizes there. So it's a very, very simple dashboard, but you can kind of imagine that if you have either data or you want to track your jobs or whatever you may want to do, you can use this. You could sort of build your own dashboard with the sort of an approach, and then launch that on JuliaHub. All right, so yeah, we see it's listening, and so the Dash app has started up. So as I said, it's very, very simple, but this is the sample data set. Now it's talking to JuliaHub. And yeah, so it fetched all the data, knows something about the data set, and is showing a nice pie chart. And this is now interactive and uses JuliaHub.jl every time you do something. So if I pick a different data set, it's going to show you some information about that data set. Right. So I think that's pretty much it. And I think it's exactly on the hour as well. So
folks, I just sent a quick message saying, given the time, I know a lot of you may not be able to stay on, but you're welcome to email me with your questions and I will follow up with you with answers. And you're also welcome to respond to the recording email for that. I want to thank everybody who's attended, and I want to thank you, Morten, for this great presentation. I really enjoyed it, and I think we had a lot of engaged and interested folks who joined us today. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Morten.
Yep.
Look forward to seeing you at another webinar, folks.